I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job. Thank you. Have a seat now. Bring it back up. All right, next up. Adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that we adopt the agenda.
I second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next up is recognition. This evening, we have Mr. Buckler from Center Grove Elementary. He's going to talk about his fantastic team and the student who just did the pledge.
Awesome. So I'm going to invite Clayton Montenheiser back up, and Mrs. Jessica Coffey and Mrs. Kelly Beggs come up. We're going to recognize them this evening. So we're going to we'll just stand like this so that we can see kind of both sides. So I'm going to start off and read a few words about Clayton. Clayton is the son of Carrie and Clayton Montenheiser. He is a 5th grader in Mrs. Hoffman's class. Clayton is an outstanding role model for his peers at Center Grove Elementary School. He is a leader in the student council and is making a tremendous impact as a peer buddy. When working with his peer buddy, he is positive, encouraging, and supportive. He is always smiling and willing to go above and beyond to help any student or staff in need. His positive attitude and effort exemplifies the Knight's Creed that are our daily expectations. He consistently gives his personal best and is an excellent example of the best of our Center Grove Elementary students. Here's Clayton. So now we're going to recognize our support staff, Mrs. Jessica Coffey, and I'm going to read some kind words about her. Jessica consistently goes above and beyond for our students with special needs. She utilizes various strategies in the classroom to keep the students engaged. She is their biggest cheerleader, celebrating accomplishments big and small. Not only does Jessica support our students, she is also an excellent resource for her peers. She willingly shares her experience and knowledge to build the capacity of all she works with. Center Grove Elementary School is truly fortunate to have such a dedicated staff member working with our students. And finally, Mrs. Kelly Beggs. Kelly is currently in the second half of her first year in kindergarten at Center Grove Elementary School. Kelly entered into her new role as kindergarten teacher at the beginning of the year with a positive outlook and a team-focused mindset. When looking for a volunteer to work with our beginning learners last year, Kelly quickly took on that challenge. She brought a wonderful sense of creativity to the kindergarten team, and they are very happy to have her on their team. Kelly has demonstrated she is flexible, willing to stretch herself as a teacher, and gives lots of energy and effort and enthusiasm to her students each day. Center Grove Elementary is fortunate to have Kelly as a dynamic member of our teaching staff. Something for you, Clayton.
Thank you for doing the pledge, young man. Nice job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Stacy, where would you like us?
Are you sure you want me to pick?
Mrs. Johnson, get in the picture as well.
All right, next on the agenda this evening, we have a report from the Teaching and Learning Department. Dr. Hoover?
Yes, so glad to talk tonight about more work that we're doing. And tonight we're going to focus on counseling and mental health. Chrissy Berger is up here. She is our Director of Counseling and Mental Health for the district. She's in her 3rd year with us in this role, but as if you didn't know, she had been a North Grove social worker, and the middle school central counselor before going away and doing a little work with the DOE. And so she's going to explain a lot of the programming, but I want to spend just a little bit of time reminding us how the work that she's doing connects to our bigger system of learning for what we're trying to do for students when it comes to academics and those goals. And so we focus on supporting and enhancing all the parts of our system for learning to meet students' academic and social emotional needs, because those things are tied together. Our success criteria for ultimately measuring how we're doing, of course, are those assessments with iLearn, iRead, SAT, and also our graduation rate. Our works district to provide effective counseling and well-being supports impacts our students' ability to be ready to learn and ultimately to that success. Tonight, Chrissy's going to share a lot more details about what is going on as they're doing that work at the building level and district level. 3 takeaways for tonight that will really be the emphasis is, first, what are our current barriers that are impacting negatively, usually student success? And then what kind of supports are we offering for counseling and mental health from our team to help with those students that have those needs? And then finally, what are the opportunities for our parents to partner with us to support our students along their whole academic career? So I'm going to let Chrissy talk.
Awesome, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Just a reminder, our counseling team and our mental health team provides a variety of supports to our students. So we focus in on academics, career, and social emotional learning. So we have 26 wonderful school counselors and social workers on my team that support our 10 buildings. So you'll see that divided here, that our elementary staff has either a full-time school counselor or a full-time school social worker in each building. In addition to, we have 3 SEL counselors who provide instruction around the employability skills of regulation, connection, and collaboration to our elementary students every other week. And then at the Bridges Academy, which supports K-12, but also about 100 preschool students, we have a social worker that supports there. Our middle schools each have 2 school counselors and a social worker. Our high school has 8 school counselors and 2 social workers to support their students, including our Simon Youth students. And so we've had a wonderful, mighty team for a while, and last year we were able to receive a grant from the Indiana Department of Education to expand our comprehensive school counseling team. And when we wrote that, we wanted to be intentional on how could we provide more proactive and preventative supports to our students without coming and asking for more support and staff all the time. So we were trying to be creative, and we wrote into that to be able to pay intern stipends. So that would attract college students who are in their master's program for school counseling or school social work to come work here for a little bit of money while they're in grad school. So we were awarded that grant last year, which goes for a couple more years, and that allowed us to add 5 school counseling interns this year and 4 school social work interns. So we were able to add 9 to our staff, which is wonderful to be able to provide more support to our students, but it's also really helped us train them in hopes that they would want to come back and work in Center Grove in the years to come. So that's our team. And I have a lot of data that I just wanted to share of how we collect the current needs of our students so that we can switch our programming to support them. And so the 26 counseling staff that I just talked about, we track how our time is spent. So we pick days throughout the year because we know, again, our roles change day to day depending on what's in front of us. And so they track their whole day. How do I spend my time from 7 to 7:30? And we as a team divided into 6 different categories that we agree on. So you'll see direct services, that's one-on-one support for our students, small groups, whole group, just any ways that we're working in front with students. Scheduling for our high school, they do that very many times a year. Crisis response, program planning, consultation and collaboration is with teachers, administrators, and families. So that's a wide group there. And then the clerical work that just goes with our job. Non-counseling task, that is before, after school duties, lunch duties, testing, the things that make schools go. So they obviously support in that space. So I was really excited to see this far into the school year, most of our time at each level is spent providing one-on-one direct service towards our students or working with families, teachers, and their administration. So we look at that to just make sure we're on track in the supports that we provide our students, but we look at every data point that we possibly can. One is the Columbia Screener. So this is a evidence-based tool that's used to identify level of risk for suicidal ideation among our students. So we unfortunately deal with this multiple times a day with students in all of our buildings, and this could come to us through a parent request, a teacher request, student request, they self-referral or a peer. And so you'll see the data for fall semesters. We started using this tool and tracking it in 2020. Obviously, we know in 2020 and 2021, school looked a little different for our students. So I really look at last year's data and this year, and I'm excited to see that that's trending down. So fall semester last year, we had 155 Columbias that our staff administered. So that's not students, that's just numbers of times that they did that. And this year, we're at 135. And those 6 questions is an evidence-based tool. It gives a level of risk, so low, moderate, or high. And we share that information with parents. Parents come in, have a meeting with us, and if it's high risk, we encourage them to see an outside person for that support. And I'm really proud of our team and the work that they've done. I would say, I think it was 95% of our students that were high risk this year have gone to the hospital and been admitted. So we know that the way that we are supporting our students is on track with what the medical field is seeing to support them. If you all remember, we came to you this year to adjust our student survey around the employability skills, again, of regulation, connection, collaboration, and work ethic. So our K-2 teachers answer 3 questions about our students. Our 3 through 12, the students answer that question about themselves, which we think is really important because it's one of the ways that our students have student voice, and that we can hear what they're saying. We can guess what we think the current need is or the current barriers are, but they can really tell us in this information. And just a reminder, the 3 through 5, they answer 6 questions, 6 through 8 answers 26, and 9 through 12th grade answer 14 different questions. And so the data points I'm sharing today are focused on regulation because that's a theme K-12. So you'll see that our teachers say that 84% of our students are on track, able to recognize and manage their emotions. 3 through 5th grade students said they are 40% of the time, almost always or frequently, using strategies to calm down when they're upset. Our 6th through 8th grade students, that was a little bit higher, that they know how to regulate their emotions. And then we felt for high school it was really important to put in a healthy coping strategy. We know that in our conversations with students, we tend to see an increase in substance use in high school. And so we really wanted to focus in on that healthy coping strategy. Are they able to go to that when they're feeling overwhelmed or stressed? And this is one of those resources that we will use to show proficiency for the state of the new accountability. Current supports we have, this is just overarching for all of our students in Center Grove. And just tier 1, as a reminder, just like academics, that's something that we provide for all of our students. 80% of our students should respond with that core instruction. And then we know some students might need some additional teaching or reteaching. So you'll see tier 2, it looks like that small group, some one-on-one skill building with our staff. They might be brought to our student support team, mentor program. And then tier 3 is where we're really looking at community health supports, safety planning, functional behavior assessments to kind of see what's behind the behavior. To note, for tier 2 and tier 3, parent notification and or permission is required for those for our staff, and so we're constantly in parent communication about that. They're invited to those student support team meetings to talk through how we can best support and work together. I think I've said this several times, but again, our core instruction just ties back to the employability skills from the state. The new GPS dashboard is going to require us to show proficiency on those skills. We haven't been told quite yet from the state how we're to show proficiency, so that's why we're using the student survey to show the growth from fall to spring in hopes of using that for the way to show proficiency. And then I wanted just to provide you a little bit more insight on what that actually looks like in the levels. So elementary, as I shared, we have the SEL lessons that our students get every other week, which are all on our website, and we provide guardian extensions and teacher extensions so that we're seeing that transfer from school to home. We also are really working on sense of belonging for our kids. So a focus for our elementary staff is morning meetings or community time, where we come together, ask questions that don't connect to academics, just get to know one another and really support each other and talk about, what's your favorite season? And so how can we build those relationships within that? Tier 2, again, is for that smaller group of students. We might have small groups, our student support plan. We have reset rooms in our buildings. And then Tier 3 is when we're looking to community health supports and diving a little bit more individualized for those students. At the middle school, our Tier 1 instruction is Reallyville. We use that for our employability skills instruction, and that was new this year. We've had a lot of really positive feedback from the students, teachers, and a couple of our parents have even emailed to say that their kids are coming home, sharing things that they've learned, and they've been excited about that. Something different that Middle School North does that I think is neat to highlight for Tier 2 is instead of their school counselors doing lunch duty, they provide assignment lunchtime. So they work with the classroom teachers, identify students who maybe have several missing assignments. Those students and parents are notified that they're going to work during lunch to get caught up on that. So our counselors provide organization, help them learn all the things that they need to complete their assignments, and help stay on track. So that's decided with the teachers and the parents, but we also have several students who self-refer into that because they want to get caught up. The high school, this year we worked with Stacy to do a Be Kind CG campaign, really focusing on what it looks like to be kind to others, ourselves, and our community. Something that's different at the high school is we partner with Kick It, which is a nonprofit organization that provides supports to students who are homeless or at risk of being homeless. And so they have a caseload of students that they support with resume building, connecting with outside resources, and a variety of supports. And then Tier 3, it's that one-on-one counseling, suicidal, or they partner with their administrators when we have a homicidal threat, and then we work with community health. Last, community health, just wanted to share our increase in partnership with them. So over the past 3 years, we've been able to see an increase in the staff that they're providing for our students. So just a reminder, they're in our school buildings. They do the intake with the families, and they bill through the family's insurance to provide those services to our students. So we have full-time therapists, which they're your typical, when you think of therapy, they're clinically licensed, and they give a mental health diagnosis to our students. Life skills clinicians, they provide those skills. They come alongside the students in the classroom, practice those skills, reinforce positive skills. And then this year, we partnered with our special education department and brought on 2 intensive life skills clinicians. And so they support our special programs, team, lift, base, and they get to see them a little bit more frequently because they're specifically in those 2 classes. And then this year, we're currently serving 334 students across all of our buildings. And something to know is that we do have a waiting list at every building because this service really is helpful to families because it helps to eliminate those barriers of transportation, parents having to take time off of work. And so they really are interested in being able to have those supports. The kids are missing less school time by not having to be taken out to go to counseling. And so community is continually looking and hiring, but along with the nation, we're seeing a decrease in mental health professionals. So they are constantly looking to add more so that we can provide more supports to our students. And then this is just a reference for the mental health diagnosis that our students from community health have been diagnosed with. And something to note is we aren't super surprised to see this because it's what we see in our counseling offices, but anxiety and depression is really high for our students and continues to grow year after year. And then last, we've really worked hard over the last 3 years. This is gonna play. We've worked really hard over the last 3 years to increase our stakeholder engagement. We know that parents are essential for our students to be successful in school. And so we've tried a variety of ways. We've held in-person parent information. We've sent home different clips from our principals about topics around bullying, social media. We, in May, for Mental Health Awareness Month, have had a mental wellness fair where the agencies in Johnson County come so families can see what's provided, if they need it now or if they need it in the future. And then this year, per parent feedback, we are partnering with our school psychologist, and we're doing evening Zooms on the parent information series. And so parents can hop on, it's anonymous, they can get the information around the different topics there. And then we also share out the recording and resources with them to support the needs that they have. So I'm really proud of the work our team has done, and I think it's ever changing in schools, we all know that, but I think we've worked really hard to make sure we're eliminating the barriers that our students have for academic success. And so hopefully tonight you guys could get a glimpse into the current reality, what our team is doing, the barriers, and how we are working with families to support our students. Sorry.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Did you say that 95% of our students that identified as high risk sought some form of treatment?
Correct. They were admitted, so different than just treatment. So when they're high risk, that's usually is that they are currently actively thinking of harming themselves or others. And so we give them a list of places to go, and then obviously the parents choose where they would like to take their student. And so those students have been admitted, and the ones that have not, it was lack of beds available, not of need.
I guess I want to commend your group
Yeah.
because to convince the parent, to convince the guardian, we have an issue here and for them to trust and to do that. I think 95, I mean, I don't know what the national average is,
Yeah.
but I couldn't imagine it's 95%.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think that's, of all the things that stuck out to me, so I mean, those
Yeah.
are kids that you're catching today.
Yes, and I would say most of the parents are desperate for help, and so they're happy that we're reaching out. They maybe didn't know where to start, and so we've encouraged that communication of we can provide you information for local resources, but our team's worked really hard to be accurate with our risk levels, and so thank you for saying that. It's been hard work.
Make sure your team knows that
Yeah.
that number, that statistic did not go unnoticed.
Yeah,
because
I will.
think that's remarkable.
Thanks. Yeah. Hi, Gary.
I like Center Grove North counselors, they do what at lunch again, they work with the kids.
I know, I was trying to get it all in my 10 minutes, I'm sorry.
I think I really like it.
So they work with the team of teachers, as you know, and when they meet with them, they fill out a spreadsheet of students who have 2 or more missing assignments for that past week. So then they come to lunch until those assignments are completed, and they work with the counselors, and we actually have a handful of retired teachers that have offered to volunteer and have come in with like the academic content of it. So they've done a really great job.
That's good, and that's a commitment by the North administration to do the lunch duty,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, yes.
So, next question, if you feel it's valuable, maybe Central pretty soon?
So
Well,
let
we are-
me address that one.
Got a
You
lot
know
of
what? We're working on that. That's-
Middle School
and-
Central has
and-
had 2 cafeterias during construction,
Yeah.
and so now that we are
Okay.
down to 1 cafeteria, that is a conversation. Yes.
And
So our, as the secondary schools, including the high school, we've been working this year on some issues, some supports for making sure that we're giving accurate feedback to students that they can grow and thrive. And so in part of that, we don't know how they're doing when they don't do the work, right?
Right.
So the punishment for not getting your work done should be getting your work done. And so we really like that, and we think that the other 2 schools can adapt, and they're working on that this semester. So next year, we're having mechanisms to capture kids. They won't love them either. Giving up lunch with their friends, staying after school, and having special study halls at the high school. They may not love, but if they do their work, I don't really care if they love it. I'm not their friend.
And they are tracking which students are repeat offenders, if you will. I don't like that word, but and they've had really good success of not many of the same students. So they're learning those skills and sticking up with their homework, yeah.
That's wonderful.
Just to explain the laughter in case someone in the audience maybe didn't know, Mr. Robinson's been several years. So that was his sticking up for several years.
Yeah, we spent a lot together, yes, we did.
I like that you partnered. I like that you partnered or working with Kick It through attending Aspire community meetings. I learned what Kick It really does. I also learned that homeless doesn't mean that you're without a roof over your head.
Correct.
It just means you're at grandpa and grandma's,
Doubled up.
or half your family's here and half family's there.
Yep.
You could also be out of our district, but we still bring them, we go get them and bring them.
Yep.
I like that you've partnered with, wherever we can, we need to partner with these groups.
We've definitely increased our community agency partnerships since I've been in this position, and I think that's been really beneficial for our community and just the variety of supports we have. So we are always looking for community partnerships if they're willing to help our kids. Any other questions?
I just kind of want to share it, because so many things you have asked about as questions lead right into this whole graphic and that system for learning. And a lot of the work Christy's and her team is doing is focusing on that safe, supportive environment. But that collaborative piece is really important because they're also working to get students and families to resources, but they're also then in the class talking to the teachers to make sure this child is supported in really a wraparound way when that's needed, but also working on the preventative side. We have to deal with the emergencies and the urgent, but trying to help support so we're giving all kids what they need, that maybe we'll have fewer kids that have those intense needs over time, but really plays into that standard of care that all students, that's defined there on the right side of that graphic, that those are the things every kid should expect and deserves when they attend our schools. And her team is really important to that. And the next slide, I can't say enough that we're better because we work together. One school has a great idea, it's working there, we better do it somewhere else, because the other school's got something to share with you. And being a professional learning community and relying on each other to grow and learn from each other some of our best resources are right here, just in another school building. So it's really important that we continue to collaborate, and we show adults do it, and we expect kids to do that too. So really proud of that whole teamwork and how Christy's team just blends in with the academic pieces of it, because as she says, at the end of the day, they're here to learn. And her team is just working to get kids in the classroom so they can learn. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up is public comments, and there were no one's signed up to speak tonight. Thank you, Tracy. Next up is reorganization of the board for the 2024 calendar year, as is our.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
As is our normal process this time of year. First thing we need to do is the election of the board president.
Mr. President, I would nominate Amy Counts to serve as the next president of the school board.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Thank you, Mr. Russell. We have a motion and a second. I guess we should ask Ms. Counts if she's willing to accept.
Can I nay my own?
Doesn't have to be unanimous.
Not at this time.
And it doesn't have to be unanimous, Amy. I think you might lose 4-1. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Congratulations, Mrs. Counts.
Mr. Alexander, before you switch seats and hand over the gavel, we have something for you tonight. I couldn't remember, in hockey and soccer, 3 is a hat trick. I think 4 is called a haul. Is this a hat trick or a haul for you?
It would be a hat trick, sir.
Okay, so on behalf of the board and the school corporation, we'd like to present to you, in recognition of your outstanding and dedicated leadership, a plaque for thank you for being the president.
Thank you. Gold. I never got the gold one
Well, it
before.
goes up.
It
It's
goes
bronze,
up.
silver, gold. Every time it's a different.
With that, Madam President, I will turn the reins over to you.
Let's do this.
Oh, did you need your water?
Yes, please.
Okay, everybody has to bear with me. It's my, there we go. All right, so on to 7.3. Do you want me
Yeah.
to announce positions?
Yeah, I think
There we
that's,
go. All right, so with the board organization, do you? Oh, that's really
no,
loud.
go ahead, that's
Okay,
you.
okay.
Maybe it's that
Um,
one,
it
slide
is
this back over.
Thank you.
This
He
one.
has one on already, thank you. So, we'll have Rob Daniels as vice president, secretary will be Gary Robinson, and then Jack Russell and Scott Alexander as members. And then various board representatives, Gary Robinson for the Central 9 Career Center, Jack as the first alternative, and then the Ed Foundation, sorry Jen, you're still stuck with me, and Jack as my backup. Bargersville Redevelopment Commission Liaison is Rob Daniels. Johnson County Redevelopment Commission Liaison would be Mr. Alexander. I can continue reading if you want me to, or we can read ourselves, so. Does anybody have any questions or discussion on that?
No, ma'am.
No, all right. Anybody have a motion?
Madam President, I move that we accept the reorganization of the board as presented.
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander and Mr. Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. And let's see.
To the board meeting
Yep,
dates.
so 7.4, our board meeting dates. There we go, you have it up? Yes. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns?
Right.
All right. Any?
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, go ahead.
I thought February was gonna be the 8th.
It is, it's on the screen in front of you.
Never mind, my packets.
Yeah,
Sorry.
right, no,
We had
it's,
to make a
we,
change.
yeah,
Sorry.
we updated it and changed it.
I'm good.
All right, do I have a motion? Do I need a motion? Yes. Do I have a motion?
Madam President, I move that we adopt the calendar for school board meetings for the year 2024.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. And, all right, on to the consent items. Does anybody have any questions over the consent items presented? All right, I'm just moving. As a whole? So each item?
All of the consent, right, we'll vote for all of the consent. so.
Okay.
They did on the reorganization.
Yeah, we did.
Right. Oh, sure, right,
Of 8.
right, on 8.
I got this. Madam President, I move that we
Thank you.
approve the consent agenda as presented in
Second.
section 8.
Oh, sorry, second?
Thank you, Mr. Daniels.
All right, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, consent passes 5-0.
Madam President, a couple,
Yes.
an item I'd like to point out on this evening's consent agenda. In this evening's personnel report, the board approved the appointment of Assistant Superintendent Dr. Long to serve as the interim superintendent. Dr. Long has served as an administrator at Center Grove School since 1998, including more than 3 years as the principal of Center Grove High School and 20 years as an assistant principal. The board is confident in Dr. Long's ability to step into the role and provide the leadership necessary to keep our school corporation moving forward. I'd like to congratulate Dr. Long on the interim superintendent appointment this evening.
Thank you. It's my honor.
You're stuck with me.
We'll do it.
Okay,
Section 9.1 is, I'm sorry, my screen is jumping. It's the second reading of the proposed policy revisions. Dr. Long will provide us with additional information.
So these are the policies that we reviewed at our first reading at the last board meeting. We've had no recommendations, or we've not made any changes to the policies. So we typically don't review them again the second time, but if there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer them if the board has any.
I was fine with the changes that were proposed at the last meeting.
And Dr. Long, most of these are suggested changes from Neola, correct?
Some of them are required because the law changes.
Say they're required because it's
right.
law changing.
Right. But everybody on our team and reviewed the policies in their areas and have made the changes that are appropriate and match what we do on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything? All right, and I will need a motion.
Madam President, I move that we approve the policy revisions as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander.
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson.
Just for clarification, I think
Go
there were
ahead.
also bylaw changes in there, correct? Or were they just policy? I just want to make sure we're,
I think these were all policies.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, our bylaws are,
Thank you for clarification.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And I do need to announce that at the closing of this meeting, immediately following, we'll have the board meeting for the Board of Finance meeting. So does anybody have anything they want to add before we close the meeting?
Just announcement supplies. Just want to remind everyone that April 13th is the Gala for the Grove that the foundation puts on. Raises money for scholarships, which the scholarship apps are available now. And the trivia night is the next Friday, the 19th, I believe. And there are still tickets available. You can get them on the foundation site.
I want Mr. Robinson on my team for that.
I'm going to trivia night, so I hope some of the other board members are there. And I'd like to thank Christy for the great presentation and how well we're doing in such an important area. So, yeah.
Just briefly, I want to thank Dr. Long for stepping in as interim superintendent. We look forward to him leading us in that role. And, you know, I know there are bright things ahead. We've had discussions with him already about some plans, and we're excited to have him take over.
thank you.
Nothing to report this evening.
All right, I don't either. Anybody else? Nope. All right, so I will close this meeting. Ooh, I got time.
We're adjourned. There we go.
I gotta hit the button. Okay, we are adjourned.
And now we
Now we
can
can
call
open
it
it.
to order.
I have to get to it, I'm sorry.
It's up here. if you
I know,
want to.
it's, the iPad doesn't like to move, unfortunately.
You want some papers in?
I got it,
Thank you.
if you need it.
I don't, I got it. Okay. All right, so I am going to call to order the Board of Finance meeting on January 10th, 2024. All right, and first is the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion or any?
Madam President, I move we adopt the agenda as presented for the Board of Finance meeting.
Second?
Thank you, Mr. Alexander and Mr. Russell. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. And section 3.1 is the, Dr. Taylor is actually going
Yes,
to
thank you very
help us with
much,
this. Thank you,
Mrs.
thank you for
Council.
saving me.
This is a procedural meeting that we hold annually. It is a requirement of Indiana state law, and it's really loud. Let's get that back a little bit. Ms. Howard, if you go to page 2 of the first attachment of the summary, the law stipulates that we cover 5 different areas during this meeting. The first of which is that the board signs and establishes a resolution to establish a board of finance. And as we've done in prior years, we continue to use the entire board and the same officer structure for that board of finance. The Board of Finance's main goal, and this is number 2 here, is to oversee our public depositories and any interest or investments that we may make with public funds. And so the Board of Finance will make that decision and have the right to reject any depository for reasons if needed with a bad experience. I will also then provide an investment report, and you can see that's listed here and partially listed here under number 3. You can see the history of our investments. 2023 was a very positive year for us, as I hope it was for all individuals in the room, if you're able to make some return off money that was invested. We do have some limitations on how much we can invest. That's why you'll see our total investment has stayed at that cap for these last 2 years. And similar, our total checking account hasn't risen very much. But we were able to earn some additional interest, and that was calculated and added to the budget for 2024 that was presented in September. The final 2 items, number 4 and 5, I'll cover in separate action items this evening. That is all I needed to share on that topic, Mrs. Counts.
All right, do we have any questions or discussion?
I'm excited the interest rate's a little better.
Yes, very positive.
Do I have a motion?
Madam President, I move we adopt the resolution presented to establish a Board of Finance.
Great,
I second.
thank you, Mr. Daniels and Mr. Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. All right, and on to the investment resolution, and Dr. Taylor is going to
Thank you.
talk again.
This one will be even shorter. So it's just a summary document that's written to Dr. Long. It explains that we do have a board policy in place, 6144, and some of the details of that policy. The resolution is attached in here along with the policy if there are any questions. This has not changed other than dates from the prior school year or calendar year. Thank you.
All right, any questions, discussion? Do I have a motion?
Madam President, I move that we adopt the resolution authorizing the assistant superintendent or his or her designee to make investments as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander and Mr. Russell. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And now we have the section 4.1, I believe it said, yes, the reports of the fiscal condition of the school corporation. Dr. Taylor.
So this will take just a little bit longer, but want to just kind of talk about why we're giving this report tonight. And if you'll go on to the next slide for me, Ms. Howard. This is a requirement, again, it began in 2019 as part of Indiana law. I will cover tonight 6 fiscal indicators that are available on the Distress Units Appeal Board, and that's an awful name because we're talking about positive things tonight, but it was a board that was created so that if units were to fall short in any of these fiscal areas, the Distress Unit Appeals Board would have a hearing on them and would make some adjustments. There is a public website link there that I made available. Unfortunately, all data is only from calendar year 2022. We won't receive 2023 until well into this next year. I always present this about a year behind. There are no official ratings provided, just simply data and comparison from year to year. And we've added some additional information that's important to Center Grove, just to kind of enhance some of the data points, because what the state has, it's rather limited. And so we'll work through those 6 areas, and we'll start with the next slide, please. This is average daily membership, or ADM as we call it. And this is simply the number of students in our population throughout our schools. And in this case, we're just looking at the fall count. There are 2 counts a year. It's actually fall, and it's in October and February, so fall and spring aren't really appropriate labels anymore. But that is what the state still calls them. And then each virtual student would only count for 0.85% of a full student in these counts. We don't have a lot of virtual students that are full-time, and so that you don't even see their sliver on there because they'd only be 1 or 2 students. But as you can see, some positive growth in enrollment. That's been a great trend for Center Grove. And the next slide will actually show the detailed numbers of how we've grown. And so again, we'll look back to 2018 when we were about 8,400 students. growing up to 9680, or 9496. It's not labeled, but it's right there in the middle, and that's where we were in October of this school year. So great growth. And then we project out, based off those prior years, where we anticipate future growth coming and where it may land. And we expect to roll just past the 10,000 student mark sometime around 2026 to 2027. Next slide, please. The second indicator are fund balances. And again, here you'll see how our fund balances have really maintained a little bit of growth and some fluctuation over the years. Again, a lot of this changed in 2019 when our funds were consolidated and reestablished. But we do have just slightly a little more in our fund balance in 2022. It's just under $8 million there. The third indicator are fund balances as a percentage of expenditure. So they take the number from the last slide, they compare it to how much we expended in that school year, and you'll see that we had about 9.8% as a cash balance, for lack of a better word, at the end of 2022. And that was down just a little bit from our really all-time high of 10.4% in 2020. The board has established a goal to be in that 8% range, and so we're exceeding that very well. And you can kind of see that broken out just one last time, and this is more of a Center Grove slide, but how it's changed over the years. And you'll see there's a drastic change between 18 and 19 where we actually started tracking cash balance and a lot more funds because the state changed the way the fund structure worked. And again, we came in at that 8.5% here as an operating balance. So for us, this is actually how much cash we felt we had on hand compared to our budget, not our expenditures. And so this is something we wanted to have. 8% gives us about 2 months worth of operational cash if we had to make payrolls or anything else, if we were lacking in funds from our current funding sources. Again, I'm happy that we haven't had to dip into that, but I'm also happy it's not growing excessively. We don't want to store extra cash. We like to spend the revenue that we that we receive out in our classrooms on a daily basis. We'll look at then number 4, it's annual deficit to surplus. And again, you'll see we're extremely low in this area. We don't carry any deficit at this time. We don't carry any surplus. You can see that we're spending just below our revenue. And so in 2022, there was a slight little orange sliver you can see there at the bottom of, we did have a little bit of additional revenue that went unspent that year, but not even enough really to make an impact on this chart. And as you can see, it's far less than 25,000. It's probably in the hundreds to thousands. We do report this to the board on a regular basis in a communication that we have with the board, and we share. And this was how this, we call it a speedometer, looked. And so ideally, if we did everything perfect, we would spend every single penny that we were budgeted in revenue. And you'll actually see that we were just slightly over that year. We spent a little over what we thought in our budget. And part of that is that we got additional revenue as well that year. We had grown in 2022 after we had closed our budget out. And so that's why there's just a slight increase there. We love to live between that 1% difference there. We don't want to see it too high in either direction. Moving on to the 5th indicator, this is revenue by type, and you can just kind of see where the funding revenue comes into Center Grove. Obviously, our largest contributor to funding is in that state revenue area, and that would be tuition support from the state and the Department of Education. Another one to kind of pay attention to is the fuchsia kind of purpley color there. That's our local property tax revenue, and says our other local revenue. I'm sorry. Per local property tax would be then down in the green and the light blue, and the light blue is pretty hard to see. Oh no, the light blue is not on there. It's the salmon color. Whew. Sorry, had that one off. Finally, the last one, and that's why I said it's not on there, is if we had an operating referendum, it would have shown a light blue sliver on that slide, but we do not, and so that is a flat line, but it is yet an indicator and one that we have to share annually, and ours remains at 0. Just looking ahead, kind of looking at how this would play out for 2023 and 2024, you can kind of see where our tax rate landed, and then where we did increase, and we talked about that increase with our solar project, and setting us up for more operational cash in the future, so that we could maybe spend some more money on our classrooms. And you'll see that was that slight increase, and we have received our final budget report, and we'll be able to hit that number spot on this year. How does that tax rate then compare to the other county schools? Well, I don't have all their 2024 tax rates, so I have to take a look at 2023, and you'll see we landed kind of right number 4th in the county at $1.02. Even though we will go up to a little over $1.06, we'll still be well below Edinburgh, Clark Pleasant, and Franklin in our county, and just above Nineveh, Hindley, Jackson, and Greenwood. Finally, one last thing we like to talk about is, since we talked about how we manage our operating balance, we also like to look at how our debt plays into that. And you'll see this is a chart that shows our projection for current and future debt payments. You'll see the light blue sliver there that I've called out. That is inclusive of the projects that were approved at the November meetings, the solar project, and then our reoccurring GO bonds. And you'll kind of see we're making a really big payment on those in 24 and 25. That's why the sliver and the triangle is so large. And then it's just a small piece of our debt as we move forward throughout the years. This chart also has changed from what the board's previously seen, where I now reflect the red line and the increase where we kind of went from that prior 2009 goal of staying at $1.04 to moving it up just over to $1.06. And so you'll kind of see we're going to stay right below that in all of our projections. And there is available room for more debt as early as 2023 if we chose to do something else. Finally, the last thing is assessed value. We do have these numbers in and they're official, and so we like to share this as part of this presentation. This is how much value we have in roughly White River Township and Center Grove schools. And you'll see it's increased. There was a humongous increase last year. We all know that as the housing market went up and our property taxes as well went up. But the values of our homes went up. And so that's what that 20% really looks is indicative of. You will see, though, that it did reset. Some of this was driven by state legislature change, and so we actually grew 2.6%, 2.59 in the past year. Still great steady growth. We're happy with that. It allows us to continue to operate. We would love to see more years of the 20s, but we know what kind of pain that means for taxpayers, as we are also, and so we understand that. And but the 2.5 will be enough for us to carry forth our 2024 plans. That's the last slide I had to present tonight. I've covered all 6 factors and would welcome any questions the board may have.
Does anybody have any questions? No?
Nope.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. All right, well, that adjourns, we will now adjourn the Board of Finance meeting. Thank you.